Everywhere Paul and his missionary team went, they faced conflict from enemies of the gospel. And if we're sharing our faith and we're teaching people about Jesus, or we're serving him and helping spread the truth, you're going to face some conflicts. Maybe you're part of a church, and the church speaks out against same-sex marriage or transgender issue. Conflict is going to arise. On Answers for Living, let me give you 3 things not to do when you face conflicts in sharing your faith. These 3 things come from Acts chapter 19, verse 9 and 10, when Paul was in Corinth. Listen to what this says. One night, the Lord spoke to Paul in a vision, and he said, "Don't be afraid. Keep on speaking. Do not be silent, for I am with you, and no one's going to attack you to harm you." First thing you don't do is this. You don't keep feeding the fear. He says, do not be afraid. For Paul, there was a lot of things in that culture and in the politics of that day, with race cards being played all the time by the government of Rome, and the decadent morality in the city of Corinth. There are a lot of things and reasons for him to be afraid. But God said, do not be afraid. Otherwise, you got a much bigger God, Paul. So Paul had to make a choice. Choose fear or choose faith. Fear will always lead to failure. Faith will lead where God directs. So Paul chose to focus on faith. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, "For the Spirit of God does not give us a spirit of timidity, but gives us power and of love and of self-discipline." When I was in college, I spent the summer in Dayton, Ohio. The pastor of the church that I attended decided to do a series of sermons on Satan worship and the occult. Well, Dayton, Ohio happened to be the witchcraft capital of Ohio, and they were furious. They picketed the church, so it was difficult to get into the church. They wrote articles in the paper. They sent death threats to the pastor. But for 8 weeks, we heard what the scripture said about the enemy of God and the church and the gospel. And we began every worship service by singing, "Almighty Fortress is our God." You know, as a 19-year-old, I needed to see leadership in a church that would stand strong and not feed fear.